Welcome back to another episode of Death After Sports with your host, Sean Mack. Today we're going to be discussing Benji Wilson, the tragic tale of a young man trying to make it out the hood, but yet was taken out by the hood. Too many stories like this one. So if you like today's content, make sure you like, share, and subscribe the video. Let's go.
This year, because of increased incidents of violence, such as the kind that claimed the life of 17-year-old Ben Wilson. Police have identified the suspects in his murder as members of a street gang. Those gangs are responsible for 61 murders so far this year. Among the many questions being asked today in light of Wilson's death is where does such violence start and how can it be stopped?
Benjamin Wilson Jr., better known as Benji, born March 18, 1967, and tragically left this world November 21, 1984, played high school basketball in Chicago, Illinois. Benji attended Neil F. Simeon Vocational High School, where he was regarded as the top high school player in the U.S. by scouts and coaches, attending the 1984 Athletes for Better Education basketball camp. Wilson is noted as the first Chicago athlete to receive this honor. On November 21, 1984, Wilson died due to injuries he sustained in a shooting earlier that day. Born in 1967 to Ben Wilson Sr. and Mary Wilson, Wilson was raised in the Chatham neighborhood on the Chicago South Side. Mary Wilson had two sons from a previous marriage, including Curtis Glenn, and would have her sons Anthony and Jeffrey with the elder Wilson before the couple divorced. Wilson began playing basketball in elementary school. He started at St. Dorothy School and transferred to Ruggles Elementary School, graduating in 1981. Wilson practiced at Cole Park in Chatham and participated in summer league games all across Chicago. As his game developed, friends and family surrounding Wilson began to take notice that his talent could make him one of the best players in the sport. They made it a point to protect Benji from trouble as he got older. As he was entering high school, the nationwide crack epidemic was in full swing, and some of the people closest to Wilson, including his older brother Curtis, became addicted. Chicago's violent crime rate was very high at this time as well, especially on the South Side. In the fall of 1981, Wilson began his freshman year at Simeon. During the 1982-83 season, he was the only sophomore on the varsity basketball team. For the 1983-84 season, Simeon advanced to the Illinois AA State Championship, which was held at Assembly Hall on the campus of the University of Illinois at Urbana. Behind Wilson, Simeon defeated West Aurora High School by 9 points in the semifinals and beat top-ranked Evanston Township High School to win their first ever state title. At that time, ESPN High School magazine regarded Wilson as the best junior in the country for the 83-84 season. He played basketball with Ora Kelly and Nick Anderson. Wilson, described as Magic Johnson with a jump shot by his Simeon coach, Bob Hambrick. In July of 1984, Wilson attended the invitation-only Athletes for Better Education camp in Princeton, New Jersey. The camp allowed scouts and coaches to watch top-notch high school students in a single location. After the week-long event, Wilson was ranked the #1 high school player in America. As his senior year approached, it was believed that Wilson was considering scholarship offers from the University of Illinois, DePaul University, and Indiana University. Now let's take a deeper dive into the death of Benjamin Benji Wilson Jr. On November 20th, 1984, Wilson decided against lunching with teammates as he walked to talk to his girlfriend, Jaden Rush, with whom he had been having a significant issue with. The couple had conceived a child earlier in 1984, a son named Brandon, and Rush would neither speak to Wilson nor let him see his child. Meanwhile, Calumet high school student Billy Moore was outside Simeon's campus with a .22 caliber revolver looking to avenge his cousin, who had been allegedly robbed for $10 by a Simeon student. After finding out the conflict had been resolved, Moore and his friend Omar Dixon decided to stay nearby. Eventually, the two followed Moore's friend Erica Murphy to a nearby luncheria, located on South Vincennes Avenue, just up the street from Simeon. Billy Moore, in the ESPN documentary about Ben Wilson, described what happened next. He and Omar Dixon were outside the luncheria when Wilson and Rush came up the street behind them. Rush was trying to break away from Benji, who in his desperation to speak to her failed to pay attention to where he was walking and bumped into Moore. Moore called out to Wilson to watch where he was walking, and Wilson responded by turning around and heading back towards Moore. The two engaged in a loud argument, with an infuriated Benji and Moore exchanging explicitives. During the argument, Moore drew his pistol he had been carrying. Wilson taunted him and dared him to shoot. Moore later said he felt that the much larger Benji was just punking him, end quote. Wilson then lunged at Moore, who responded by firing 2 shots at him. The first struck Wilson in the groin while the second struck him in the abdomen and caused significant internal bleeding. Moore and Dixon then fled. Within minutes, words of the shooting reached Simeon's campus and a large crowd gathered near Wilson. Emergency services were called at 12:37 p.m. local time, while Simeon basketball coach Bob Hambrick made a call to WMAQ TV newsman Warren Sanders and informed him of what happened. Paramedics were slow in reaching the scene, and at approximately 1:20 p.m., Hambrick decided to take it upon himself to get his star player to the hospital. Just as he was getting into his car, an ambulance arrived on the scene on South Vincennes. According to Chicago's then emergency protocol, Wilson was taken to the nearest available hospital, which was St. Bernard Hospital in Inglewood. St. Bernard was a small community hospital that was not equipped to handle emergencies or trauma cases like shootings, so a call was put out for any available trauma surgeons to report immediately to St. Bernard. Back at Simeon, the basketball team remained sequestered in the teacher's lounge for the rest of the day. Wilson teammate Terry Sampson recalls that throughout the night, the reports progressively worsened, going from Wilson's possible recovery in time for the state playoffs to perhaps missing a year of play, to possibly never playing again, to fighting for his life. Benji's brother Curtis Glenn recounted in the ESPN documentary seeing his brother being wheeled by him in the hospital and noticing his feet were unnaturally pale. Upon examination, it was discovered that Wilson's aorta was damaged by the second shot and that there was no blood reaching his lower extremities. Despite doctors repeatedly telling her they could save her son, Mary Wilson's professional experience as a nurse told her that even if they were able to repair the damages, Ben would likely be in a persistent vegetable state afterward due to the massive blood he had already lost. Earlier the next morning, Mary Wilson asked that her son be taken off life support. Ben Wilson died shortly thereafter. He was buried at Oakwood Cemetery. Soon after the shooting, Erica Murphy returned to her home to find Billy Moore sitting in her living room watching television. It was through this that he discovered who he had shot. Moore remained there until the police began pounding on Murphy's door looking for him later that evening. Dixon's arrest followed, with the charges upgraded to murder once word of Wilson's death reached the police. Police presented both suspects with a case theory that after Moore's conflict with Wilson, Dixon tried to pick Wilson's pocket and then urged Moore to shoot Wilson. Both men signed confessions to that effect that were later recanted. Despite being underage at the time, the Cook County State's Attorney Office elected to try both men as adults. At their trial, the prosecutors presented the same case theory to the jury, with the trial being the following year. Jetta Rush was the prosecution's lead witness and testified to the same effect. Moore and Dixon attorneys chose to present Wilson's celebrity as a primary reason for the charges against the two teenagers. Both Moore and Dixon were convicted on charges of murder and attempted armed robbery, per the recommendations of the prosecuting attorney. They both were given significant prison sentences. Moore received a 40-year sentence, while Dixon received a 30-year sentence. Dixon was given the lesser sentence because even though he was involved in the crime, Moore had been the one to fire the fatal shots. The Wilson family's lawsuit against the hospital for inappropriate delay of medical care was settled in 1992 for an undisclosed amount. Dixon was released on parole in 2000 and Moore in 2005. Dixon later began an unrelated sentence for armed robbery, although Moore, interviewed in the 2012 documentary Benji, claims that his own confession was coerced and that Dixon was not involved in the Wilson shooting. Wilson died on the same day that Simeon was to open its season. The team chose to play the game, a rematch against Evanston, and they won. Rest in peace, Big Dog Benji. Wilson's friend and Simeon teammate, former NBA and University of Illinois basketball player Nick Anderson, wore jersey number 25 during his playing career to honor Wilson. Juwan Howard wore 25 at the University of Michigan as a tribute to Wilson. Former Chicago Bulls guard Derrick Rose, who graduated from Simeon in 2007, wore number 25, and the team won the state championship in 2006 and 2007. He also wore 25 with the New York Knicks after being traded. Simeon basketball player Jamari Parker had the number 25 stitched into his sneakers during his time at Simeon. Thanks for watching. I've been your host, Sean Mack. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and get in that comment section as well and let me know, do you think Benji actually forced the issue a little bit, which caused his death? Once again, thanks for watching Death After Sports. Benjamin Benji Wilson Jr.